Live. You hear me? Absolutely. Guys, if you have any questions, now is the time. Now is the time to ask them. The title of this video, the title of this video is called What Did You Come to See? What did you come to see? Did you come to see somebody in a cool paisley shirt? Did you come to see an entertaining video? Did you come to see something that is flawless or that is perfect? Right? What did you come to see? Velocitizing your business. That's what we're talking about tonight. Right? We're going to be talking about velocitizing, adding some acceleration to it. All right? Don't worry about your expenses. My goodness. Okay? Man, it's just really gets under my skin. A lot of people are worried about their expenses when you don't have an expense problem. You have an income problem. Let me say that again, one more time, and ask me any questions on this. You don't have an expenses problem. You have an income problem. And sometimes you need to go low in order to go high. And that's what we're going to let you know tonight. We're going to show you that as a team. All right. So Ray Fleming, Joseph Smith is going to be presenting to us tonight.
As needed.
We have Mark Kohler with the taxes, showing us about the taxes and everything. How we should not worry about expenses. My goodness. Okay. You should be concerned about your income. All right. Now, let me go ahead and we will start filming in a little bit here on the presentation. They just came back from Hawaii and we will start that right now. Ask questions.
Hello and welcome. How's everyone doing this evening?
Doing great.
Hey, congratulations, Lanny. Good to see you.
I'm just teasing you, man. Welcome. And you are? Cool. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Welcome to all of our guests that are here. How many here, this is your first time? Well, what a special treat for you. And you're all the way in the back? Look, there's people here in the front. Come on. First time. It's like, don't you want to ride in the front car of the roller coaster? You're in the back. All right, my name's Joseph Smith. I'm a member here of the local Renatus Odyssey team. We're a team of local real estate investors. Is anybody here for real estate? Is that the reason why you came tonight? One, thank you. There's that one. Oh, there's a few other people. All right, well then you're in the right place. We're going to be learning a lot. I don't want to take any more time than is necessary. Let's get to our first many speakers that'll be training this evening. The leader of our team, his name is Mr. Ronaldo Fleming. He is a very extraordinary real estate investor. He's been at this for multiple years. He has, in the last 2 years, done 18 real estate projects. In fact, he just closed on a nightly rental last week. The guy has produced a lot of money in marketing, real estate. He owns currently 6 businesses that all invest in real estate. Please give a warm round of applause for Mr. Ray Fleming.
Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate it. Oh, man, I like how you're the guy. He's so knowledgeable when it comes to finance. It's crazy. I mean, the guy has raised over $1.2 million of retirement funds just for real estate. Now, if you had access to $1.2 million, do you think you could do some real estate?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. So you're here to find out about our real estate group? Really? And so, did you already pull everybody who's here for real estate?
There's like 4 people.
Okay.
Oh, it's grown. There's more people here now for real.
All right. Who has no idea why they're here? Or what they're walking into? All right. That's me. I have no idea. I had no idea what I was walking into when I walked into a room like this. All I knew that I was broke, I was busted, and I had to figure something out. That's for sure. So tonight there's a couple things that are taking place. Some people are going to go be doing work. All right, now who's running the Essentials group? All right, Mr. Brian Todd, come up here. Everybody give Brian a hand. Now, I believe it's All right, so what are we going to be doing tonight?
Tonight we are doing state red flags up through 23, and we're talking Christmas. We're going to be discussing what we learned over this week and how we can use it to our advantage, and what it really means to be an investor.
Perfect. All right, so who is going over there with Brian? Yeah, so Shinlin, we have a few more possibly coming. Ed, are you going over there?
No, I guess.
Well, that's all right. We'll take good care of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So anybody that is in the essentials, if you want to head on over there, Abel, you're in there, right?
I'm actually going to go to the Velocitize.
Oh, you're going to that? Perfect. All right. Doug, you're going over there?
It's a good thing.
All right.
You're going.
You're heading over there too.
Debbie's going.
Yeah, we're going to take good care of you.
Debbie's going.
All right. See, they're trying to get us to work.
There you go.
That's what happens, trying to get out of work. All right, so the next thing is, okay, so what are they doing over there? They're actually, what they've gone through is some training this week. And now they're really developing a plan on how they're going to implement it this next coming week. And it's working together to make sure that we watch out for these pitfalls, that we don't get trapped, that we don't lose money, and especially other people's money. If you're using other people's money, don't lose it. That's a big problem. Because if you lose people's money, will they want to work with you again?
No.
And this is a relationship business. If you screw somebody else over, they're gonna, anybody ever heard about somebody who screwed somebody else over? Has anybody ever heard? Does that travel quickly? It travels very quickly. So, reputation is very important. All right, so next thing that is going to be developed tonight is a velocity banking training. Now, so this is kind of taking what you learn here and taking it to the next level. So if this is your first time ever, then you're going to be here. You're going to stay with me. This is the fun room. You get to go over the fun stuff tonight. Over there, it's an intense training, financial training. And what it is it's learning. Oh, actually, I'm not going to explain any of this. I'm going to bring back Mr. Joseph Smith and let him explain it because I'm
The
just
best
going to butcher
explainer
it.
in the world.
This is the guy that's going to be teaching us. So put your hands
He's the
together.
best expositor in the universe. Joseph Smith.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. The only thing that upsets me is insufficient funds. Guys, velocity banking, quite simply, it's a way that we convert from expensive interest into inexpensive interest, saving us time and money. Who was like, what's that? Okay. The point is, if you have a 30-year mortgage and you didn't have to, let's say, get an extra job, you don't have to make extra payments, but if you could just restructure how you pay the loan, velocity banking could pay that off in 1/3 the time. So a 30-year loan paid off in 10 years. Is that good or good? Right? A 5-year car loan paid off in 1.5 years, right? This is what's possible. People who get started with this group, what you're learning here tonight with Ray, this is some cool stuff. But when you get started on the financial side with velocity banking, and you begin to just eliminate your debt and free up your cash flow, just imagine all the possibilities that are open to you. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're diving into, some really fun stuff. So who's with me tonight? Boom, 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 boom. All right. Velocity banking time. Let's go.
So would you like to see velocity banking, or what are your desires? This is your channel, okay? This is your channel, okay? So let me see what do you want? You want to stay here to learn more about the team, or do you want to learn more about velocity banking? Just let me know.
They're already enrolled. Yeah, so are you going to that or you want to go to the essentials?
I don't know.
No, you're going to velocity banking.
Oh, okay.
You want to go
I'm
to
Linda,
velocity
and I
banking.
apologize. Congratulations.
You can either go with her or go to the other group.
Good idea.
Perfect. All right, everybody. everybody that is here for the fun. What are we gonna do? All right, I want to meet some of you a little bit because I didn't get a chance to. Carolyn? Carol. Hi. I'm
Hey,
Rick.
Linda.
So nice to meet you.
Definitely.
And Brian.
We're gonna give it
met
to you
Brian
all.
before.
All
Just
right.
walk around, say hello.
Mike Charles,
Hi,
I
how
hear
are
you.
Good to see
You want to
buddy.
learn some velocity
Hey,
banking?
how
We'll
are
go
you?
ahead and do that
Remind me your name one more time. Keith.
in just a little bit,
Yes.
okay?
Keith.
We got you.
Perfect. Shannon. Hi, Shannon.
Wait, look at me, Sharon.
Sharon. Sharon and Shannon. Perfect. And Steve. Good to see you again, Steve. How are you, sir?
Mike, congratulations.
Good to see you.
Good to see you back, man.
All
Good to
right.
see you back.
Just
Congratulations, Mike. Hey, y'all. Mike just got his line of credit.
How are you doing to see you?
That's awesome.
So, what are you here for? There's an opportunity. Tonight is an opportunity, just like everything else. Every day is an opportunity for new growth, new experiences, and trying something that's, let's be honest, that's just new. So, what is opportunity? What does that really mean?
Dance.
A chance?
It's a set of circumstances that allow.
Wasn't that a sucky definition? Sorry, guys.
We like a diction. That JC knows a substantial amount of, he has a substantial wealth of knowledge. So if you guys, I go to this guy for a lot of help. So somebody like that is who you definitely need on your team. All right, so yes, an opportunity is a set of circumstances that makes it possible to do something. So welcome to a plan that has been implemented since 2011. I've not been part of this plan since 2011. It was about 3.5 years ago, actually, when I started with this group and on this plan. And that's what you're gonna find out. This was my challenge. My challenge was that I got blessed with a beautiful lady that actually could put up with me. And she makes really beautiful babies too.
Oh,
And
perfect,
so my
Mike.
challenge is,
Perfect.
how do I?
Man, we want to help with that.
I'm seeing
Don't put
these
it in your
reports
name.
that, you know, child, by the time at 18 is going to cost you $285,000. That's a big house. We have, you know, and I'm trying to figure this out. Has anybody ever been there trying to just figure out how you're going to pay for life? Because I've been there. There's so much that needs to be done for this little family, and how can I take on the responsibility and make sure that they're okay? I don't want them to, you know, resent me. I want to be somebody that they look up to. And that's really what my challenge was. And when I found this group, I was about to lose my house. I'll tell you a little bit about that later, but I was injured and I used my body to basically do everything. I was a handyman, I was a subcontractor, I was a landscaper. Who's worked out in heat? Worked in on some roofs? Yeah, every single day. I'm so grateful I don't have to be outside working right now. It is so hot. But Renatus, who's heard of Renatus? Anybody heard of Renatus? Okay, so what Renatus is a company that I have, because when I showed up, my finances needed a rebirth. Anybody else's finances needs a rebirth? Yes. Okay, so I do need to give you a little disclosure because I would like to put everything out on the table. I do not hide anything from you. I want you to know every single thing that you are getting yourself into. Because in real estate, do we need to do our due diligence? Yes. Do you need to know what you're getting yourself into? So I am an independent contracted marketer. I have a contract with Renatus to provide marketing services for their education services and marketing affiliate offerings. I do my best to represent their offerings truthfully and accurately. I also do my best to give you all.
That's what we're going to do right now. Just want to do some traveling, guys.
Since I am an independent
You guys are getting excited, aren't you? We're going to do some traveling because there were a number of you, and there were some people that actually emailed me wanting to know, CJ, I got tons of lines of credit, but I don't know what to do with all of these lines of credit. The problem is they think they are in debt and they need to be re-educated, right? Folks, it's not your fault. We didn't get taught this in school. Some of our parents didn't know it. Grandmothers, grandfathers didn't know it. Because we were taught what to do by the banks, right? but the wealthy get taught a little different. And the whole purpose of this channel is to bring to you not only an idea, but a plan, a strategy, a team that you can have that will help you re-educate yourself about your finances, to stop worrying about your expenses. A lot of people, they get worried. They get worried when they see a $36 insufficient fund on the bank statement or a $72 insufficient fund. Should you go into the negative? No, of course not. But there's no reason you should lose sleep over that, guys. Because when you're in business, remember, many times you're starting from behind because no one taught you, all right? So as your business grows, your cash flow will grow. And we want to assist you in helping that cash flow increase. And that's what Velocity Banking is all about. So we're going to go in here, we're going to go through our Real Estate Essentials class, then we're going to head back to the Velocity Banking course where you're going to know more about Velocity Banking. Now, some of it may seem like you've heard it before. I want to implore you to please listen, because repetition is the mother of all learning, right? We want you to be masters at this. So here we go into the Velocity Banking course, all right?
Also says that we're way too large or way too quick. And then he was also comparing, what was he doing?
We can go to the back here. Oh, nice. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet, okay, because he's already teaching.
When that $5,000 comes in, what do we as Americans do? Do we stuff it in a mattress? Do we put it in a coffee can? Where do we let our money live? Where does it reside? Bank. In a bank. Right. Let me draw a little pie. Right. This is our pie, and we start cutting the pie up into pieces. So you have a checking and a savings account, right? So a certain portion of the money is going to go here. And then we start cutting this pie up, right? Now, who doesn't like pie? I love pie, right? But this slice of pie might be for a house. This one, right? We have other things that we spend our money on. And so here's what's important. When you live this way, when you take cash that comes in and then you go and you spend it on all these things, you're living on what's called a cash basis mentality. Cash basis mentality. It is the zero-sum game, right? Have you ever heard of that? Like, oh, this is the perfect opportunity for me to tell you that when you have phones that go off, they interrupt the speaker, so silence your phones. All right, so when the zero-sum game, it means if I take a portion of my money and I allocate it towards the rent or to the house payment, then that's money that's not available to me to spend on, say, the car or other things, right? You get that? So there's only so much in the pie. Okay, so here's the problem with that. When you live on a cash basis mentality, 5,000 coming in, all of a sudden, bam, you're hit with everything breaking in your car all at once, and you have an $8,000 repair. Is there? Okay, so first of all, without the car, can I go to work? If I can't go to work, then I can't bring in an income, right? So, is it a high priority to get this vehicle fixed or to find some solution? So if I want to fix the vehicle, is there enough money in my monthly budget to fix that? No, there's not, if it's an $8,000 repair. So how would I do it? How would you, borrowing somebody else's money, call mom, right? Would you call mom? Say, Mom, $8,000 repair, I need your help.
She's my last resort.
Last resort, lender of last resort, right? You have to borrow the money from somewhere. It has to come from outside, because if you just lived in the cash basis mentality, you can only ever afford whatever that most Americans encounter situations where more money comes up in expenses in a month than the income that came in. So because of the wonderful world of banking, we're able to borrow money. So let's talk about different ways that people borrow money. So in the house, the average 2-income American family lives in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, paying $1,200 a month for their mortgage payment. So let's draw this over here. This is a bank product called a loan. So your home loan. Let's say you have $200,000 was the starting balance. Now, if that's the starting balance of the loan, the bank requires that you put 20% down, which would mean that the value of the home that you're living in is $220,000. You guys picking up what I'm laying down? Going to be going over a lot of numbers here. So $1,200 a month on a $200,000 loan, and the average interest rate being paid on home mortgages across the country is 6%. So that means half of 2-income American families are paying less than 6%, and the other half are paying more. Now, how are they paying more? Hasn't it been like record low, like introductory rates at 3, 4? Haven't we heard people getting these amazing rates? There are always commercials for them, right? Who gets that 4% interest rate?
If it's not good credit.
If you qualify, right? So, do most Americans qualify?
Sure can.
No, so do they get the higher interest rates? Do they get into an ARM maybe, where maybe it starts at 2% for the first 2 years and then jumps up to 4 and then goes to 6, and every few years, the adjustable rate mortgages, they get out of control because they might top out at 9%, something crazy, right? So that's where people are at with their houses. Now, 2-income American family has how many vehicles? 2. The average cost for a vehicle, the average monthly financing cost on vehicle is $300. So at 2, how much are we spending a month on our vehicles? $600. See, you guys are brilliant. Okay. Now, this little part here, this is like it's everywhere you want to be, right? It's your credit cards. This is kind of shocking, or at least it was for me the very first time I found out. The more I've worked with folks, I realize it's not shocking at all. The average 2-income American family is paying $600 a month combined on all of their lines of credit. Now that's an entirely different banking product. So I'll put it over here on this side. The average 2-income American family has a limit of $15,000 limit. But they're carrying a balance of $12,000. Is that crazy? Now, excuse me, as I play with this cap. All right, so how many of you are thinking, wait a minute, $15,000 limit? I don't have a $15,000 limit. Who has a $15,000 limit? Right, these aren't for most people all credit cards. If we're taking an average of lines of credit, they're extended in many ways. Has anybody ever heard of a personal line of credit? You have secured and unsecured lines of credit. There's also what are called home equity lines of credit. There are overdraft accounts. Some people might have a money market account or a pension or some form of an annuity that has with it attached to it a line of credit, as well as your credit cards. It's at this point I like to make a distinction between lines of credit and credit cards. Who knows the difference? There is a difference. Some people are like, is there a difference? Yeah, there's a big difference.
Do you pull money out from the line of credit?
Yes. Give yourself a gold star. Just go ahead, just write it there. Gold star. Gold star, yes. A line of credit, you can pull the money right out. Now, a line of credit might be, let's say average might be at 12% interest on a line of credit, but you can pull all the cash out of your line of credit. That's pretty cool. Now, credit card. Let's say I have, you know, a $10,000 limit on a credit card, and I want to pull cash out of that. Can I do that?
Yes, you can.
I can. What?
With interest, like.
Called a cash advance.
That's right.
So then my interest. Oh, by the way, you guys know what the average interest rate on the credit cards are? 21% interest. So, cash advance though shoots you up to 30% interest.
Have you heard of a credit card company lowering the interest?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. If I-
I had one do it the other day, I was shocked. I said, effective when? She said, right now. Okay.
Right? You've been a victim of a credit rate decrease. It happens to people like you who've been successfully doing
I was
velocity
shocked.
banking. Well, almost for a year now, for a full year.
February.
So not quite a full year, right? Guys, velocity banking is powerful. That's my star pupil right there. All right, so, but back to lines of credit and credit cards. So with a credit card, if I have a $10,000 limit, can I pull all $10,000 out in a cash advance?
Limited limits.
No,
Probably, gonna cost you money.
no, they won't let me take my full limit.
Oh.
They'll let me take about a third. A third, that's all they'll give me, and they'll charge it at 30% interest. But, I mean, gosh, credit cards aren't all bad, because let's do it the other way. Let's say, has anybody ever heard of a credit card for 0% interest for 6 to 12 months?
All the time.
Right, or 12 to 18 months or something like that, right? Pretty cool. So how much does it cost you in interest to use that card? Nothing. Is that cool or cool? How many lines of credit come with 0% interest rates? None. So there are advantages to both. Now, but velocity banking in its original conception comes to us from the continent or the island of Australia, depending on how you want to live. If you live in New Zealand, it's just that little island off the coast called Australia. That's what the New Zealanders tell me. Right, but that's where velocity banking was established. All right, and then it spread to New Zealand, up the Polynesian islands. In its most current form today, practiced very, very well in Hawaii, which is where I spent the last 4 days getting trained from the velocity banking masters themselves. And now they've been bringing it over to the States. And it's taken a while to catch on, because everything that you know about banking was taught to you by who?
Here's the bank.
Your parents, yes. And where'd your parents learn it from? They learned it from the bank. So, right, so the bank, well, first of all, let me ask you this question. Does anybody know the definition of a fiduciary? What is a fiduciary?
Someone who takes an interest in your well-being, these things that speak for you.
Yeah, you know, you're on the right track.
Someone
there.
that look for your best interest.
Yes, a fiduciary is somebody that's going to give you financial advice that's in your best interest, and they themselves, you know, aren't going to benefit from it. So you pay a fiduciary to give you independent. They're in the fiduciaries, they're licensed, because if they do promote one product over another, they could get in a lot of trouble. So you go to a fiduciary to seek wise counsel on what to do with your finances, because they're going to tell you, based off of your situation, what's in your best interest. Now that you know the definition of a fiduciary, am I a fiduciary? No. Am I what's called an independent contracted marketer for the Renatus education? Could I financially benefit if you choose to enroll in this education? Right. So does that already establish a potential bias on my part? So whose responsibility is it to do their due diligence to check to see if what I'm saying here is true? Yes, it's your responsibility to look into this on your own, right? Because I do my best to represent everything that Renatus offers and what they teach, but You know, it's really incumbent upon you, because you need to hire the professionals in your life, CPAs, fiduciaries, tax attorneys, to make sure that the strategies that I'm telling you today will work for you in your situation. Understood?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not a fiduciary. Is the bank a fiduciary?
Nope.
No.
Not at all.
Are they a for-profit business?
Yes.
Now, how many people go to a banker seeking fiduciary advice? A lot of people, right? Like, what do I do? How am I going to grow my retirement? We go to the bank. So what's the bank going to say?
Put it
You know what? I'm not a
savings.
fiduciary. You should really go talk to somebody who has your best interest in heart, right? No, the bank's gonna be like, oh, we got tons of products for you here. You know, go ahead and look at these mutual funds or these different things we have going on, right? Because the bank is in business to make a profit. It's not a conspiracy, it's not a cabal, just understand that, but they do rely upon that status that they have achieved as being the financial gurus that you go to for that sage wisdom. Now, what you're doing here tonight is you're taking steps to educate yourself so that you can make better and more informed decisions, right? Okay, so everything we learned about banking comes from the bank. So as we see, we've got some loans, we've got some lines of credit, and so now we have that $600 payments. Here's another thing. I don't know what picture to draw here, so I'll just write it out. Anybody have any ideas for the perfect picture for lifestyle? I haven't found it.
Yeah, sitting on the beach.
Sitting
In
on the
Hawaii,
beach.
looking at the sunset.
There
Put my
you
feet
Palm
up.
tree.
Yeah, why
Palm tree.
not?
All right, well, lifestyle, you can put any number in here you want, but it represents your monthly bills, your food bill, your gas bill, your electric bill. That's what it's like. If I put a beach up there, that doesn't quite fit with what I'm trying to say. But everybody's number will be different. Here's a 2-income American family with no kids. Is their lifestyle expenses going to be different than, say, a single person? Is their expenses going to be different than mom and dad and 12 kids?
Yes.
Right. So all of those, your phone bill, food bill, water, all of your utilities, all of that's different. I mean, and then what do you choose to do with your life? Are you the kind of person that, like, I don't know, we stay home and play board games? Very cool. No, we go out to movies every week. Okay, that's cool too, but that's an expense, right, that you have to factor in. So now, as we take a look at what's going on here, savings. This number threw me off because it doesn't match with anything I've ever heard about savings. Right? The average 2-income American family is saving $1,400 a month. I'm like, what? I mean, has anybody ever put away $1,400 a month? Okay, now, when you look deeper into this number, because I mean, really, what is the reality? Are Americans saving enough?
No.
No. The government, all wise, all knowing, threw into this number 401k and IRA contributions, pensions, all of those things. So if you work at a job and they give you a 401k, anybody have a 401k where they work? Yeah, okay, so sometimes there's your employer will contribute 4%. I've seen 6. Sometimes it's rated on a scale based off of how long you've been there. You could potentially, if you've been working at a place for like 20 years, when you reach that 20 year, they might match 10% that goes in, right? Every business is a little bit different in how they do it. And you can just match what the company matches. So if they only match 6%, you put in 6%, but nothing's to stop you, and some people do this, putting in more. You can put in 10%. So, and then on top of that, people not only put money into 401ks, but then they also have their IRAs, different other types of pensions, rolled over 401ks from previous employers, things of that nature. So when you think of 2 paychecks you know, what is it? Every 2 weeks you get a paycheck. There'd be 2 paychecks, so in a month, 4 paychecks. And a certain percentage of that is going off to the 401k and IRAs. Now you're bringing this number down. This number is shrinking significantly to where somebody might actually put in their savings account something more along the lines of like $50 to $100 a month, right? And so people put that kind of money into a savings account, right, on a temporary basis. Oh, we got to save up for Christmas. Oh, you know, we're saving up for something in a very short term, right? Because if I put the money there, then I won't spend it if it's in the checking account, is what people think. And then they spend it anyway, because that was just so easy to slide over there. I think I'll just slide it right back. But that's okay, because in your savings account, the bank's paying you money, right? What do you make on on interest that the bank pays you?
What?
Just a variety.
1%.
1%. Well, yeah, if you have a high yield account, you can make 2%, right?
How you?
Right? So, and that's your savings account. Now, why does the bank call it a savings account? Anybody know? They don't call it by what its real name is. In their legal charter that they have, their bank charter, it actually has a name, right? They don't call it that, right? It's called the bank's lending pool. Hey, who wants to give money to the bank's lending pool so they can go out and make money off of your money? No, nobody's raising their hand. Then they're like, well, wait a minute. What about if you put money into your own savings account? Now you'll do that, right? Because you feel being responsible, right? Trying to do the right thing. That, you know, that's not a bad idea until you look at these 3 letters, which stand for what? Huh?
INF.
No, INF stands for
What's going on, Dwayne?
inflation,
Good to see you.
right? It's fluctuating. It's all over the place. Sometimes it might be as low as 2.8. We've seen recently.
Dwayne is a
And,
go
you know, in the last few years, we've seen it as high as 4%. Inflation, what does that mean? We hear this word all the time, but do we know what it means?
Cost of goods.
Mm-hmm. So does the cost of goods go up every year? Does the value of the dollar deflate every year? Yes, it does, right? Because we use, you know, really weird terms like quantitative easing. Just means we print money, and it's a fiat currency, which means that there's no real backing to it, so we print as much as we want. Anyway, those 2 things combined, the cost of goods going up and the devaluation of the dollar, lead to us the inflation rate. And what does that mean? 3%? If I put $100 into a savings account last year at this time, and there's 3% inflation rate for that whole year, how much money do I effectively have in my account?
103,000.
Well,
$93,000.
inflation is negative.
Oh,
right?
negative, okay.
Goes the other way. 97, right? But it's not all bad because the bank's gonna pay you 1%, right? So you get to keep 98 out of your $100.
But if you get a high yield account, they'll pay you 2%.
So then you get $99, right? So either way, no matter how you look at this, let me put it to you this way. I'm a real estate investor, and I'm going to solicit funds from you. Tell you what, I am going to guarantee that if you invest money with me, I will pay you back 1% on the money that you have given me. Who wants in? Regardless of the amount, you could put in $1, you could put in $1 million with me. I guarantee you will make 1%. Anybody want in on that deal? Why? Inflation. So you wouldn't knowingly invest in something that loses you money? Did you know that billionaires, the wealthy 1%, did you know that they don't put money into savings accounts? Are you aware of that fact? Your Bill Gates, your Warren Buffetts, right? Jeff Bezos, do they tuck money away into savings accounts? No, they don't. So, by show of hands, who here has a savings account?
You're probably making higher, huh, Mike?
Oh, I do too. Right?
And the fact is, when you have too many transactions, they apply like a penalty. You have to pay for it.
God bless you. Yeah, that's right, because hey, this is their lending pool. If you keep pulling money out of their lending pool, right, then they can't lend it. So, yeah, they want to penalize you for doing that. Not a problem. All right, so this is just
I had to go throw up.
things work, folks. Hey, but
This is sick.
so the bank, they
Well, we'll
take
show
their
you a
money
better
out.
link.
They take money out and they lend it off to people. So let's say you have a savings account, and let's just say, like, say these auto loans over here. Did you know that, so the auto loans, the average balance is like 13,000, so if we have two, right, that means we're at $26,000, and you know, that might be at 5%, right? Okay, so here's what happens. You come to the day where you need a new vehicle. You're gonna trade in your car, you're gonna get another vehicle. Now you have money in your savings account. But you're not going to spend the money in your savings account, because the money in your savings account is in case of a what? In case of an emergency. So,
Rainy
right,
day.
we don't want, the rainy day fund. We don't want to spend that. So we might have 5,000 saved up, we could have 10,000 saved up. We leave that in the bank, and we go to the bank and we get a what? An auto loan, right? So here's what happens. My bank, I'm the bank, I've got my lending pool, your money's in my pool, right? And you say, I need to borrow 13,000. No problem. Here, I'm going to take 13,000 out of my lending pool. There you go. We've got a loan set up, and you're going to be paying me 5% interest. Guys, you realize what happened? You gave the bank your money, right, to lend it back to you at a higher interest rate than what they pay you for having your money. Do you see that? Do you guys realize that we're doing this all the time? Like, this isn't like I'm revealing some, Da Vinci Code kind of thing. Like, this is stuff that we know, but we knowingly do this. Who here wouldn't want to be a bank? Guys, just give me your money. I'll hold it for you whenever you want to borrow it. I'll lend it back out to you at an interest rate. You guys are like, that's crazy, I've never did it. Well, wait a minute. That's the business model of the banks here, right? That's good or good. Would you turn the AC down if it isn't already? Is it a little warm in here for you folks? No?
No.
Well, you guys are skin and bones. I'm a big guy. All right. So here we are. We're looking at everything we got going on here. We add up all of these expenses here in this example. It's 5,000 in, and it's $5,000 out. Making our cash flow what? Zero. So, anybody here have kids? All right, you have a kid? All right, that's cool. Yeah, hey, congratulations, Papa. All right, so you with kids, you send them to school, and what happens every 3 months? They come back with a little sheet of paper. What's that called?
Reports.
The report cards. And you look at it, and you're like, oh, Elijah, let's look here. Okay, you're doing really well in reading, doing really well in writing. Oh, but we got to get those math scores up. Come on, buddy, let's do a little bit better. Let me tell you something. What you see up here on the board is America's report card. If your son or daughter would turn to you and say, Mommy and Daddy, what's your report card? What grade would you give this, Mommy and Daddy? What grade?
F minus.
What?
F minus.
F minus, right? Yeah, I mean, it's not doing so great.
They didn't know.
Guys, if we look at this, and this isn't the kind of life that we would invest, like, what if I had a real estate deal, right? It pays gross revenue coming in $5,000 a month. No, the debt service and the expenses on the property come out to 5,000. And if you purchase it, you take on all of the liability, both legally, physically for the property, damages, insurance-wise, as well as financial for the money for the property. Who here wants that deal? No. Your gut's like, oh, no, I don't. Look, if we wouldn't even invest in ourselves, how can we expect to go invest in something else? We have to, velocity banking isn't a neat trick, okay? It's not like a shell game where I move it around and, it's not some Sudoku puzzle and then I figured it all out. Velocity banking, when done right, is a lifestyle. Anybody ever been on one of those weight loss programs? As you can see, I'm not currently on one. But when you're on a weight loss program, do they say, oh, this is just, the Get Slim Fast program, and then, or do they say, look, if you really want to keep the weight off, you've got to make this into a lifestyle. Have you ever heard that?
Yes. Yes.
It's a way to live. Velocity banking, when we explain it to you, it's a way to live. We're looking over here at credit. Who here has learned, by show of hands, that all credit is bad? All debt is bad? I've heard it.
We sure can, Mike.
Yes, you've heard that? That you gotta cut up those credit cards and, flush them down the toilet. Well, maybe not flush them down the toilet, but throw them away, burn them, right? Because think about it, seriously, what happens if you don't pay your credit card bill?
That credit report.
Right, your credit score drops, right? A missed payment. What happens if you continue to miss payments? They send you to where? Collections.
Collection.
Now, what happens if you don't, and then a few more months go by, you don't settle up with collections? Collections then goes where?
Jail.
They go to court.
I don't know.
They go to court. They get a judgment filed against you. What happens when the judgment's filed against you? Now what?
Jail.
More
Not jail. You say jail.
Garnishments.
No. Garnishment. They garnish your wages.
Levy your bank account.
Now, there are a lot of jobs out there. Most of them are government jobs, but there's also some jobs in the financial sector that if you have a judgment against you, or if you have garnished wages, right, that you could lose your job, right? Anybody here military, right? Security clearance, right? Do you lose your security clearance if you have a judgment against you?
Ooh, man.
Yeah.
Lots of things can happen if you.
So, there's a lot of people, it's a big deal. Obviously, when they say debt is bad, it is. But here's how I like to describe debt for you, okay? Let me put it into this context for you. I have two of the cutest little boys, Elijah and Shepherd. A 5-year-old and a 7. Are they the cutest little boys? All right. So, if I take a box of, matches, and I hand it to my boys and say, okay, run along, go have fun. Am I being a good parent?
No.
No, what are they likely to do?
Says something on fire.
They could kill themselves. They could burn the whole this city could be set aflame, right? Forest fires, right? The end of the world. No, trust me, they would try. If you now, I have other children. I have adult children. So I have a 19-year-old son who likes to go camping, right? If I'm out camping with him and I hand him the box of matches, am I being a bad parent? No. What's he likely to do with that box of matches?
Campfire.
Well, he's going to start a campfire. Now, what is that campfire going to do? What can we do with a campfire?
You can warm yourself.
I can keep myself warm on a cold night, right?
Cool.
Roast marshmallows.
Dinner.
Yeah. So we can use it to eat.
You
What
can have
about
lights so the bears can find you?
No, we scare the bears away.
Oh, okay.
No, but it gives us light to see, right? Isn't that awesome? So the same tool, fire, in the different hands can be used to accomplish much. What about, is it possible, excuse me, is it possible to take fire in such a way using a science called rocket science to propel a man off of the planet Earth, land him on the moon, and then use that same fire to bring him back safely to the Earth?
Absolutely.
So you see, velocity banking, debt, credit, all these different things we're talking about. If you don't know what you're doing, you're a child playing with matches, you're gonna get burned. But once you get educated and you know how all of this works, you can use your credit to feed yourself, keep yourself warm, to be able to see. And if you're interested in starting a business, such as, let's say, real estate investing, the debt, if used in the right way as a tool, could take your business to the stars. Folks, that's the importance that I want to try to get to you and bring about. So this is your average 2-income American family budget. All right. Now, what was your name again?
Vanessa.
Vanessa, I'm going to pick on you, okay? You've been voluntold to be my participant. Now, let's say that it was your car that had the $8,000 and needed repairs. Mom's unavailable because she's a successful real estate investor and she's out sipping Mai Tais in some foreign beach somewhere with no cell phone service, can't reach her, all right? But you need that car fixed right away. You don't have time to wait, so you need to borrow the money, right? Now, it just so happens there's this really nice guy named Joseph Smith, me. Just ask me if I'm a nice guy. I am a nice guy. In fact, I'm such a nice guy that when you go and you want to borrow the $8,000, I'll let you pick. Do you want to pay me 6% or do you want to pay me 21%? You pick.
6.
Good choice. See, she was not stupid. She was not absent the day they taught math in school, right? And so that's what, would we not all pick that? So we're going to come back to that. But I want to talk to you now. I'm going to switch subjects on you. Do you remember 8th grade earth science? Vaguely.
Maybe.
All right. I'm not trying to trick you at all right? No, there's no tricking happening here. Fresh water at sea level freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. True or false? No tricks.
True.
True. All right. Is this true? Fresh water at sea level freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. True or false?
True.
You're right. I'm not trying to trick you. All right, let's change this to 1 degree Celsius. Okay, do you see I just changed this now? Compare 1 degree Celsius to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Which temperature is hotter?
32 degrees Fahrenheit.
No, try again.
1 degree Celsius.
Yes, because these we just said were equal, and we just raised this one up by 1, right? So this one's now hotter. Do you see that? Do you all see that?
Yes.
You all following along? Okay, now I'm gonna try and trick you, all right? You're doing a great job, all right? We're gonna change that to 6 degrees Celsius. We're gonna change this one over here to 21 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, now, which temperature is hotter?
6 degrees Celsius.
You're right. Let's give her a round of applause. Isn't that hard though? It's hard to look at that and say, that's a 6. That's a 21. How is the 6 hotter than the 21?
Conversion that you switch use
Conversion.
from Celsius to Fahrenheit.
Oh, Celsius Fahrenheit. So we're using 2 different scales?
Right.
Oh, okay. Hey guys, did you know that the bank is doing the same thing to us down here? Guys, do you see that? This, they say, is your interest rate. But over here, this interest rate is what's called amortized, and it's a one-directional loan. Whereas this over here is called simple interest, and it's revolving. All right? They both say interest. That's at 21% interest, and that's at 6%. But what they don't really tell you up front is 6% amortized, 21% simple. All right, let's first of all, before we get into amortized, let's talk about one directional. One directional. So I borrow money in the form of a loan. See, I get money for a house or a car. They give it to me. I then purchase said house or car, right? Whatever I did the loan for. Say I got a student loan. I purchased education. Now comes the time to pay it back. So here I am, here we are, we send our payment, where does it go?
To the bank.
Yeah, goes to the bank. So we're making our home loan payment, home mortgage payment. There we go, $1,200, right? $1,200, where does it go? Bank. Each month it goes where? Now, let's say here we are, we're just a few months into it, and I'm here in Tucson, and my air conditioning is it's blowing hot air. What is going on? Call out the tech, right? The HVAC guy, and he says, oh, you got a leak here. You got a coolant leak here. Let me patch that up. Let me recharge the unit. $500. $500? I don't have $500. Hold on one moment. Picks up the phone. Hey, bank. Yeah. Hey, how's it going? I just want you to know that the AC went out here, and it cost $500. Now I just made a $1,200 a month payment to you. Can I get $500 of that back so I can pay this AC guy, and then I'll catch it up on the next payment? The bank says no. Here's what we mean by one directional. Never in any scenario does money ever go this way. Does money ever come back? First time I got the money, made the purchase, and then from that time on until it's done, right? But let's look over here, simple interest, right? I have a $15,000 limit, right? And I've got this $600 minimum monthly payment. So if I were to max out the cards all the way to $15,000, but still make my $600, well, it would actually be a lot higher, probably be closer to $1,000, right? So I make $1,000 a month payment, right? Do I still can I still use my line?
Yeah.
Right, because look at this, 21% interest, right? Well, let's see how well you would do at math. If I have $1,000 payment that I make, but 21% of it goes to interest, how much went towards principal? 79, but if we're talking about $1,000 payment, $790 went to the principal. So what does that look like? I paid the full $1,000 to the bank. The bank took their 21% and then restored back to me $790 of principal that I can now reuse, right? So as long as I make my payment, I still get a portion of that payment back to me. Do you see that? That's how a line of credit works. I can pay it all the way down. Now, look at this. 21% interest calculated on a monthly cycle, right? So if I take my credit card and I swipe it for $300, and then next week I pay it off, how much money in interest does the bank make off of me? What? Nothing. Do you guys see that? Right? Because I have to carry a balance over for at least a month for it to show up, for it then to be billed right at the interest rate. So does the bank want me to swipe a credit card and then pay it off immediately afterwards?
No,
Why?
because they don't earn any interest.
Well,
That's what they're out there
right,
for.
keep in mind they have a lending pool. So anytime you swipe a card or you get a loan, they have to set aside money from their lending pool. So, and they have to set aside for 30 days. So if I swipe for $300, they set $300 aside for 30 days. But then I pay them right back, they still have to have that money set aside. They legally have to. So now the bank's like, wait a minute, I could be making money on that money, but
Do they leave it there the 30 days? They have to?
Yeah. But that's fine because I paid them $300, so they have another $300. But what they would like is to not only get money to come in, but they want money to lend to you. Because if you get in a situation where you have that car that you're paying, right? That's $8,000 you had to put on the credit card. What does that create? If you had to throw $8,000 on their credit card, what did that create for you? A monthly what? A monthly payment, right? Well, we're already living right up to the total amount. Can we afford the monthly payment now? So what happens to our budget? Well, we're like, maybe I don't pay the power bill this month, right? And then I try to pay everything else. And then still didn't quite get ahead because things happen. So I'm gonna pay the power bill this month, but maybe this month I don't pay the phone bill. Has anybody ever done that, or am I the only one that's ever gone down that road? All right, okay. I'm talking to my people. All right, let's talk about amortization. What does that look like? Anybody ever seen an amortization, like that $1,200 payments? What's that gonna look like over time? Right, so if you have, right, it's gonna look something like this, right? And you've got your interest here, you got your principal here. On payment number one, $950 goes to interest, $250 goes to principal. And then this magic number right here, what happens at the 20-year mark? By the way, this is a 30-year loan.
Well, the principal goes up and your interest goes down.
Right.
More principal goes to the loan.
Right. Isn't that awesome? Now, this is 6%. When you put $950 of a $1,200 payment towards interest, does that feel like 6%? No. No, it doesn't. What happens, let's say, right here at the 5-year mark? We are 5 years in. What happens?
People refinance.
They refinance, or they move.
Move, yeah.
Either one, you reset back to zero. So that means that the majority of Americans are living right here in this little bubble. Does that interest seem to come down at all? Does that principal seem to grow at all? No, so when you, in fact, let me break it down for you. 5 years is how many months?
60.
All right, so it's 60 months. 60 months, if you've paid all of your payments on time, in 60 months, you will have paid $72,000 towards your house. Congratulations. Now, principal, you will have paid $13,800 in principal. Congratulations, folks. And in interest, you will pay $59,000 in interest. Now that looks like 6%, doesn't it? $59,000 of 72 is 6%, right?
No, more than that.
Right, because we learned percentages in school. We were all in school. So what is 21% of 100?
You can do it even if
Right.
you
If I
have
wanted you to
debt,
give
right?
me
So what- or without
6%
debt.
of $100, how many dollars would you put into my hand? $6, right. Now, tell me which class it was or what day it was when you were in public education, right, when you're in high school or junior high, that they taught you about amortization and monthly rolling forecasts
Zero.
from daily balances and carry over.
Or time value of money.
What?
Or time value of money.
Time value of money, right? If you see the formulas that they use to calculate this, it would look like something on Einstein's chalkboard, right? So here's the deal. The banks, in their great wisdom, realize that people aren't going to want to pay all this money, right? So we had to come up with another plan. So before I go into why they did that, did you know, you talked about conversion, like there's conversion formulas. Is there a way to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit? Could I use a specific mathematical formula or could I just pull out my phone, right?
Absolutely.
Now, let's see if it works. Hey Siri, what is 6 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
6 degrees Celsius is 42.8 degrees Fahrenheit.
Boom. Right? There was a formula that was used there. Would you guys like me to show you the formula that's used to convert amortized interest into simple interest so you could see what you're actually paying? So, take your interest rate and double it. What do you get? 12. All right. Now, multiply that by 10. What do you get? 120. Yikes. Now, the actual calculation, when you throw it into the formula, is 116%. Right? 116%. This formula that I taught you lets you eyeball it within a few percentage points. Right? So, when you sat down, so Gene, you're buying a house. I'm your banker. Hey Gene, I've been talking to the underwriter and a couple more things and we're all set. But I can let you know that you did qualify for 116% interest on your loan. Congratulations.
Please fall over.
Wait a minute. No, nobody would shake the banker's hand on that. No. So here's what they do. So CJ, he's my broker. Hey, come here.
Okay.
So, no one's taking these loan products at 116%. What could we do?
Let's go ahead and change the formula, and we can make the number smaller,
Okay.
and we can get more in interest,
Okay.
so that the 21 actually becomes a 6.
Oh.
Yeah, but we're not going to call the 21 the simple. We're going to call it something like amortized.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And this, everybody, this was the conversation that happened in hell. That was Satan, and I was like a demon. And so I came back to you and said, hey, congratulations, you qualified for 6% amortized. Congratulations. Right. Guys, this is what's happened to us. We don't even realize how much that we're actually paying. Is that not crazy? Oh my goodness. So, if you look at that and you see what the banks are doing here, and we go back to your example earlier, I'm a nice guy. You need to borrow $8,000, I'll let you pick what you want. Do you want 6% amortized or 21% simple? You pick. Yeah, do you see how with this a little bit more knowledge you can make a better financial decision?
Awesome.
But how many of us would have always gone over here, right? Because the bank's counting on your public education to understand simple interest. We all understand simple interest. We do not understand amortized interest. So there is a truth in lending statement that if you ever buy a house or something like that, or you are signing for a loan, right? When you sign for a loan, is it like one sheet of paper that you can very easily read with the print nice and big? Or is it like, wait a minute, any one of those, doctor vision machine, read that fine print and say, oh, wait a minute. You mean you're charging me how much? Actually, over the life of this whole loan, if you were to take it, you'd pay $432,000
You ain't seen nothing yet, Mike.
on $200,000 a month at 6%. Now, I think of 6% as not really being 116%. I mean, that's just me. When I hear 6%, I think of something like 6.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know about you, but that's just kind of how I am. Now, guys, I've explained to you, as I said, the budget, right? We've explained to you the difference in the banking products. Now, who here wants to learn about velocity banking? All right, we reached it. All right, so there's a couple things to recap. Let's see what you've learned today. W-2, who are W-2 people? W-2. So that means you work a job, you're paid an hourly rate. W-2 folks use cash as currency. What's currency?
If I go exchange,
Mm-hmm.
money.
If I give you 50 cents and you give me Coke, I've exchanged one currency. You have a currency of goods, I have a currency of money, right? So this is what we do. This is what's all laid out here in the black, right? It's simple. We take the cash that comes in as W-2, we use it as our currency to pay for the things we have in our life. Now, the wealthy. Do the wealthy do the same thing that the W-2 folks do?
No.
No, because if the wealthy did the same thing as the W-2 folks did, would they be wealthy? No, so let's see what the wealthy do. The wealthy use, I need one of those whiteboards with spell checker. They use leverage as currency. Leverage is currency. Leverage. Leverage. Leverage is defined as OPM. What's OPM?
Other people's money.
Other people's money. Not to be confused with opium. Totally different thing. We're not talking about that here. But we're talking about other people's money. So, if a bank extends to me $15,000 in a line of credit, is that my money they're extending to me? Or are they extending to me
Thank you, Linda.
other people's money? All right. Now, not only do they do that, but they do this. They use their cash as velocity. Now, if you're anything like me, and you saw this, when I saw this for the first time, I was like, cash is currency, check, got it. Leverage is currency, using other people's money, okay, check, I get it. And then I heard cash is velocity, I was just like, what? What is that? So, if you were ever to be in a situation where you had $1 million, you could spend $1 million, right? You go use that cash as currency, right? You can just go buy a whole bunch of stuff with it. Or you could use $1 million and leverage $10 million. Is that possible? Absolutely. So if I put $1 million into a bank account or into a special type of self-directed IRA LLC bank account, let's say, because that's what I do, then could
Jeremiah,
I
that's a
get
loaded
what's called
question.
a low 5 bank rating, which would give me then access to the maximum amount lendable by the bank based off of the amount of money that I have, right, at the most favorable terms? The answer to that is yes. So let's say I'm a brand new business, they might not want to go full 10 million, but they might say, we'll give you 2. So I could use 1 million to leverage 2. Do you see that? Now, as I pay that all back and I do a good job, then maybe they bump me up to 4, 5, right? Eventually, I use my $1 million to grow my leverage all the way up to $10 million. So when I have, what can you buy on a credit card these days? Or a line of credit? Anything, right? In today's world. So should I take $1 million of my own money and just go buy stuff with it, thus depleting my amount of money, right? I have $1 million and I go spend it, right? I go spend money out of it. My little account gets smaller and smaller, right? I keep my $1 million and now I leverage $10 million. Can I spend $10 million of other people's money and use my cash, my millions of dollars, to pay the rent money for that cash, right? The leverage, to leverage other people's money, you gotta, it's like somebody's gonna rent you their money, right? It's a little exchange. It's called interest. Interest is the rent you pay on somebody else's money. But over here, I got $1 million, that's all I'll ever have, and I spend it down into nothing, or I leverage $10 million of other people's money, servicing that, renting it with my $1 million. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so that is the whole goal behind velocity banking, all right? If you understand that concept, then what I'm going to show you of how we execute that is going to work. So, first of all, velocity banking has rules, right? You gotta follow the rules. Rules. Rule number 1. It's for emergencies, right? Gotta follow the rules. When we use velocity banking, it's for emergencies. This will make more sense to you in a second. Number 2, it's for debt pay down. Okay? And then number 3.
Hey, Jeremiah, I'll share that after the video here.
It's for assets. Okay, knowing the rules, let's look at our current line of credit. Let us say that this $15,000 I have is available to me in a personal line of credit. Okay? So here we are. I've got a $15,000 limit, right? Y'all picking up what I'm laying down? Okay, I'm carrying $12,000 balance. So here's what happens. Velocity banking is I take all of my income and I don't put it in my checking account anymore. It all goes onto my line of credit. That's step number one. What happens when you put $5,000 onto your current balance? So 12.
7,000.
It goes into 7,000. Now, when I was where you were at, I'm sitting there where you're at in your chair, and I'm looking at step one of velocity banking is to put all my money onto my credit card. I was like, oh, you lost me. Because I'm like looking at this and I'm like, wait a minute. That looks like a 7, so I'll change that. How do we eat? Because as you can tell by my size, I'm very concerned about food. Like, how do we pay rent? I mean, if all the money's gone to the credit card, I'm like, guys, all right, hold on, we'll get there. All right, so here's what you do. First of all, if I'm putting $5,000 a month onto the credit card, do I have to account for the $600 minimum monthly payment? Is that it? Did I just not like overpay, right? This $600 payment is not even calculated. The only reason why it's there is so that I know what my minimum, you know, if I was to make a minimum monthly payment. If I pay all of that onto the card, I don't have to pay that. In fact, this 21% interest right here, here's another thing that's great about lines of credit that people don't realize. Because you get scared like, oh, 21%, yeah, guys, look at this. APR, what's APR?
I know.
All right, so what's 21 divided by 12?
1.75.
1.75, you're absolutely right. So for any money that I have on any given month, I'm only paying 1.75% of the balance at the end of the payment cycle, at the end of the month. So is that now as scary as it was before?
Nope.
If I had $100 on the credit card at 21% interest, and it goes through the full billing cycle, what do I owe next month's bill? What are they going to charge me? $101.75 at 21% interest. Is that so scary, folks? It's not scary anymore when you start looking at it in real. But how many times have we been scared by 21, 25, 30%? Yeah, simple interest calculated at an APR, no big deal. Like, we can do this. Okay. So if I'm not paying that $600, where does that go? I mean, I budgeted for it in my expenses. So where does it go now?
You already paid for it because you paid.
Right, I already paid it, but I budgeted for it, and it's part of my $5,000 total expenses.
Oh,
But
no, we see.
So it's included when you take out the 12.
so
What is it?
I have to change my expenses now. My expenses go down now to $4,400. So where would I put the $600?
Does the cash flow go to 600?
Yes, ma'am.
Look at that.
That's exactly where the cash flow ends up. I'm in my monthly budget. I now have freed up $600 of cash flow. Did I get an extra job?
Nope.
Did I work some overtime?
Nope.
Did we cut back to beans and rice on the food, right? Did we decide to just, turn the lights and the AC on every other day, right? See, you just got a light bulb this one. Some people are starting to get it, right? Now, you guys aren't chumps. You guys are pretty smart. Do we want to give the bank any more of our money to make money off of us? Right? Do we want to do that anymore? What about these 401ks? That was smart though, right? Putting money into a 401k. You got to feel good about that, right? Except for what happened to those 401ks back in 2008?
Ooh.
Anybody remember?
101K.
Yeah. Overnight, we just erased that part, and your 401k is now a 101k. Right? There's volatility. I mean, there's volatility all over the time. The market's up and down. It's crazy. But when you put money, when you send it away into your, you take it out of your paycheck, and it goes, where does it go? Where does that money go when it's taken out of your paycheck? If you're contributing to your 401k, where does that go? Where? It goes to Fidelity. And where's Fidelity located? Yes, you're right. Keep going with this.
Stock market?
Yes, they're located on. Where's the stock market located?
Oh, Wall Street?
Yes. So you send your money off to New York City. Fidelity is acting as your broker, right? They're gonna use your money to go make money for themselves, right? And their clients and but they're hopefully gonna make you money too, right? Now, do they make money regardless of whether or not they actually make you money?
Yes.
Because they make money every time they do a transaction. Buy, sell, and they're just like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. They make money on the number of transactions done. If you go back to 2008 when the whole stock market collapsed as it did, you guys remember how bad it was, all those banks going out of business, all those brokerage firms, right? And all those CEOs and hedge fund managers and stockbrokers standing on the side of the road with cardboard signs saying we'll work for food. You guys remember that, right?
Uh-huh.
No, it didn't happen that way? Or were they too big to fail? Did they get a taxpayer bailout? So they spent your money in the Wall Street casino, they lost. And then they still got paid by us. We paid them even more. You lost our money, and just so that you don't go out of business so you can keep losing us money, we're gonna give you more of our money through taxes. You guys remember we did that? The stimulus bill? Yeah, so that's what we did. And those folks, they didn't go out of business. They got their golden parachutes. Some of them retired. Why not, right?
Some became advisors of the government.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, folks, if I were to send you to Vegas and I was to give you $10,000 of my money, but I told you you could totally spend it however you want, gamble it in any way you want, and just bring me back whatever you get, right? I mean, but I don't care if you lose, or you could lose it all, that's fine. Would you guys like not want to have fun? I mean, would that not be the coolest thing? I just gave you $10,000 to go play at Vegas. Like, if you make money, then great, you give it to me, but if you don't make money, no harm, no foul. Guys, keep in mind, that's how Wall Street works. That's how your 401ks work. You're giving them money. So, let me ask you something. Who cares more about your financial future? You or some broker over in Wall Street in New York City? Yes, you care more. Why do we just give our money away to folks like this?
They convince us that they care more.
Well, because
Somehow.
we perceive that this is complicated, that it's hard, it's too difficult, I don't want to think about it. I'll let the professional, I'll let the fiduciary, right, take care of it, right? But guys, here's my point. Nobody cares more about your money than you do. You need to get educated, you need to learn how these financial systems work, you need to learn how to invest your own money, because I guarantee you, you will always be able to make more money on your own than you will giving it to somebody else who doesn't even care about you. Right? Does the bank care about you? Does Wall Street care about you? No. Right? You're in better hands when you use your own hands. All right? So, what does that mean? That means we're not going to budget. We're not going to put any more money into those 401ks. We're not going to put any more money into those IRAs. We're not going to put any more money into savings accounts. We're going to learn how to create self-directed IRA LLCs with their own bank accounts, right? We're going to learn how to become our own bank, right? These are things that we can totally do on our own. And we're going to learn to get our own rate of return. If we're a bank and people use our money and we charge them amortized interest, who likes amortized interest when it's getting paid to you, right? Exactly. Is it legal to charge somebody 116% interest on the money you lend to them? Yes, it is. You just have to call it amortized. You're good to go. So when we don't have to budget for that 1,400 anymore, then that changes our expenses to 3,000. Again, what about what happens to our cash flow?
Goes up.
Yep.
If you had it to be 2,000.
Right? Let's use the right color. Do you guys all understand that how I arrived at $2,000 of cash flow using this budget? Right? We stopped contributing to 401ks and IRAs, and we stopped putting money into savings accounts. And then we put all of our money onto lines of credit, so the money budgeted to pay those minimum monthly payments is no longer in the budget. So when I add up my living expenses, my auto loan, and my home loan, that comes to $3,000, right? Of my $5,000 coming in, because I've restructured how I'm paying things, I have freed up $2,000 of cash flow. Now, is your budget gonna work just like this? Maybe, maybe not. Your numbers are different, right? But the principle is still the same. Finding where you are paying for things that don't need to be paid for, it's inefficient, and in this case, it's inefficient to send money to the bank and to Wall Street because you're just losing money. You put money into the bank and you're automatically losing. So don't do it. All right, so here's how velocity banking works. Take $5,000 of my income and I throw it all onto my balance. You said that goes down to 7. However, I still have $3,000 worth of expenses. So where does that go? Right back on the card. And now you see that my net pay down in month 1 for my card is $2,000. I just paid my card down by $2,000. Anything you do once, you can do twice, right? Exactly. Unless that is, if you jump out of an airplane without a parachute. You can only do that once. You can't do that twice. Right? But we're hopefully not doing that here because we're getting educated. So we put another $5,000 down on this $10,000 balance. What happens?
5,500.
It goes to 5,000. Then I put my expenses back on.
8,000.
And now I'm up to 8,000. And that is month 2. Do you see that? You guys following the math here?
Mm-hmm.
So the speed or the velocity of which I'm paying down my debt is going at the speed of my monthly cash flow. So how long will it take me to pay off a $12,000 balance?
6 months.
Do you guys all see that it would be 6 months? Right? 6 months. Now, let's say I'm making minimum payments on a $12,000 balance on credit cards. How long is that going to take me to pay off?
Forever.
10 years.
Yeah. Forever if I keep using the card. I mean, I'll never pay it off. If I stop paying the card and I just make all the minimum payments, the average would be about 10 years. Could take as many as 15 years. It just really depends, because on credit cards, the large print giveth and the small print taketh away, right? You've got to really understand what the terms are on your credit cards. So, but let me already give you some objections that I usually get by this point and see if maybe you're thinking along these lines. I can't pay my auto loan on my house with a credit card. They won't let me. Okay, no problem. go ahead and put $1,800 into the checking account and then use the rest of the money to pay off the rest of your expenses. And in doing so, you'll just adjust your numbers, right? So your expenses won't be 3,000, that your expenses that you're taking care of are going to be 1,200. And you're not working with 5,000, right? You're working with 3,200, right? And so you can work your numbers that way if you need to. Another question I get is like, well, you talked me out of putting money away in my savings account, but my savings account was for in case of what?
Emergencies.
Emergencies. What are we going to do if something happens? Well, folks, let me tell you. I got the cutest little 5-year-old boy. And one day when playing out in the backyard with his brother, baseball thrown around, somehow it ends up on the roof. Would you believe that a 5-year-old can figure out how to climb up onto the roof to get a baseball? And then once up there, doesn't know how to get down. Would you believe that to be possible? Yes. Now, let's say he takes it upon himself to be a little daredevil and jump off, and then he breaks his arm or leg upon landing. Okay, now all of a sudden we got to rush him off to the hospital, and when we get him there to the hospital, and they take care of him and they patch him all up, my medical insurance is going to cover 120% of all the expenses. True or false? False. They're going to cover 100% of all my expenses. No? No, false. Okay. They're going to cover maybe 80% of my maybe.
Huge maybe. Depends on what your monthly payment is.
So all of a sudden I get a bill for $2,000. Well, let's say I'm right here. Do I have room to put, can I pay a medical bill? Right? I put this extra 2K up here. Can I pay a medical bill with a credit card or line of credit? Okay. Now, if I'm using a line of credit, right, you can pay off the house and stuff with a line of credit, because line of credits come with checks. So you would just write a check, right? But some people try to do this with credit cards, which I recommend you do not do unless you've consulted with a professional, because there are some downsides to using credit cards. You just have to use them in the right way. Maybe if we have time, we'll talk about it. Where are we at on time? Oh, we're doing great. It's 8:36. Okay, so now I put that extra 2,000 up here. Then do I just get it done? I got all my velocity banking done in 7 months. Right? Is that still good?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and instead of it taking me 10 years to pay down $12,000, it only takes me 6 months. Does that sound better?
Lots.
Okay, but I have a problem. There's a big problem. It goes all the way back to the beginning of what I said. There are 3 things that I need to do velocity banking, right? I need debt, income, and line of credit. But here I have completely eliminated all the debt on this credit card. I've got a problem. Can you guys see what my problem is?
There's no more debt, right?
There's no more debt on this card.
Right.
I cannot do velocity banking without debt. So let's go to our rules. Do I have any emergencies that need to be paid for? So let's define an emergency. Anything that could cause anybody that I live with, know, like, love, trust, to be dying, right? Then that constitutes an emergency. Anything that affects my ability to produce income becomes an emergency, because anything that's going to turn me into a charity case is definitely a serious issue. So if we don't have any emergencies, praise God, then we go down to number 2, debt. But we just paid down all our debt. What do we do?
Well, that's just part of your debt.
You still have debt.
Oh, I've got more debt. So yeah, we could celebrate. How do people in America like to celebrate when they've taken a $15,000 line of credit and paid it down to 0?
Start all over.
What did you say? Vacation. Yeah.
Oh, Greece.
Yeah. Let's go on a $12,000 vacation. right?
Well,
All of a
it's
sudden,
another six
oh
months
boy.
to pay off.
I know,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
only 6 months, huh?
Right, but,
Woman's reasoning.
But, I mean, we are paying 116% interest on, so if we're paying 116% interest off of that 200,000, what are we paying off of the 26,000? We use our formula. 5
Unbelievable.
plus 5 is 10 times 10 is 100. Right, the 5%. See the auto loan?
Yeah.
It's 5%. Now you're really paying something like 93%, whatever it is. But would you want to buy your car at 93% interest? Right? Imagine being able to put a car on a credit card and buy it at 21% simple interest. Does that sound a little bit better than paying the bank 93% interest on that? Okay. So, right, so the next thing is we've got to start looking at how do we convert that loan debt over there into our line of credit debt, right? So how do we do that? Well, a couple of things happen. Sometimes you're like Gene and you've been doing this so successfully for just a very short period of time and you become a victim of what's called a credit limit increase, right?
Or interest rate reduction.
Or you get a victim of an interest rate deduction, and now all of a sudden that's at 18%. Either way, those are both cool. Now, in the example we talked about in your savings account, you saved up maybe $5,000, $10,000 in your account. The day you finally achieve $10,000, right? It happened to you once,
Yes.
right? I remember you showed it to me. And the bank showed up, they pulled up in these big vans and they came out, balloons, confetti, right? And they had this big, huge cardboard check and they said, "Congratulations, CJ," right? "Here's another $10,000 because you saved $10,000, right? That's what happened, right?
Never happened.
Never happened?
And never will.
Banks don't do anything like that. That's crazy talk. But if I use a line of credit the right way, will they give me access to another $10,000 of other people's money? Like what? All I did was just pay off all my debt. Now I get to play with more money? How cool is that? All right, so a couple more rules we want to give to you. I mean, there's really hundreds of rules because, again, this is a long 2-day class that takes a lot of time to learn. But when using a line of credit, right, line of credit can only help you if you use it. So if you have a credit card that you don't use because it's only for emergencies, then that card is not helping you. It's just sitting there. And then someone's like, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to go and close all of my cards that I'm not using." No, don't do that either. Right? So you take your lines of credit and every month you use them. Creates what's called transactional history. And when you pay your bills on time, right,
That's what
help.
they want to see.
Right, they want to see that. Now, use the cards, and then when you use it, do not exceed more than 50% of the total limit. People, what class in school do they teach you? When you get a credit card, don't use more than 50% of it, right?
No.
So if I have a $15,000 limit, what amount should I not exceed? Right. If I have a $25,000 limit, what amount should I not exceed? There you go. See, you guys get it, right? But nobody ever tells us that. So the moment you max out a card, you see your credit score fall into the tank. So use a credit card every month, pay the bill every month. Don't go more than 50%. And here's another important thing. When you, after putting a balance onto a card, pay down the card more every month than what you put back on it.
How much more? It doesn't matter. It's just as long as it's more.
Right. They're just looking at ending balances.
Okay.
When they see that, when they see the overall balance going down every month, they know that you're responsible. And when you do those things that I tell you, that's when all of a sudden you find yourself having access to $10,000 more of other people's money. So here's what we're going to do. Over there on that loan, we're going to take $13,000, approximately 13, 14, whatever it is. Now, that's slightly more than half of my card, is it not? Well, how do I get away with doing that? Well, wait a minute, because in the next 30 days, that's gonna go down by 2,000, is it not? So it's really only gonna be 11,000. Okay, get it? So I can go ahead, put my 13 there. Now, what am I doing? I'm doing a principal only payment, okay? Now, if it took me 6 months to pay down $12,000 using Velocity Banking, how long is it gonna take me to pay off $13,000 using Velocity Banking?
Another
6.5.
6.5 months?
6.5 months. You're right. And just so you know, you are getting charged that interest, that 1.75%. It's gonna come out to $1,490, right? Of the 13,000 that you borrowed, right? So, and the bank's making some money, guys. But let me illustrate Velocity Banking now. Oh, here we go. Let's look over here. In 5 years of paying $1,200 a month on an amortized loan, I was able to pay off a little more than $13,000, right? How long did it take me? 60 months, 5 years. Now, I paid off $13,000 over here in how much time? 6.5 months as a principal and payment. Now over here, over the 60 months or over the 5 years, I paid $59,000 in interest. $59,000 in interest. Over here, I paid $1,490 in interest. So not only is it faster, but do you see that it's also cheaper? It's more cost effective. God bless you. And God bless Velocity Banking.
Yes.
That's how it works, okay?
So a question, is the line of credit different than HELOC? Or is it same thing? I've heard of a HELOC and I've heard of line of
We'll
credit.
talk about that in just a
Okay.
second. Okay, so I took these 6.5 months. Could I do that again? Could I put another 13,000? Now what happens when I do this, when I put $13,000 or onto this card, onto this loan, excuse me, I'm like Marty McFly, getting into my DeLorean and traveling back to the future. I'm skipping over all of this interest. Do I have to pay any of that interest?
No.
No. We're skipping over like over $55,000 worth of interest, right? And I'm skipping over it, and now I'm ready to go again 6.5 months later, right? So here we go again, right? And I'm skipping over this interest now. By the time I'm done, right? If I keep doing this pattern over and over and over again, I pay off the rest of the house, folks, in 5 years. So in 5 years, I only paid it down $13,800. In the next 5 years, using Velocity Banking, I paid off the rest of the house and saved myself like over $110,000 in interest. Is that good, or is that good?
It's good.
So once this is eliminated, right, then that frees up this money, right? I'm not spending that money anymore, right? So we have to go, excuse me. There we go. $2,800 now in expenses. So that means over here, did my cash flow go up? $3,200. So when my cash flow increases, what happens to my velocity?
It keeps on faster. Faster.
Right. So these little slopes, they get steeper and steeper, slipperier and slipperier and slipperier. Now, in 5 years, it's probably time to get some new vehicles, right? With $3,200 in cash flow, I could get a brand new vehicle at $26,000. How long would that take me to pay off? Well, it's really easy.
Year?
Let's say I get a car for $26,000, my handy dandy and real estate investor calculator, and I divide it by my cash flow.
That's actually up to you.
$200. So guys, I own a brand new car in 8 months.
Oh.
8 months. Is that good or good?
Good.
That's cool.
Guys, I mean, then when you don't have to worry about car payments anymore, right? Now this goes up to $3,800, and this comes down to when all your expenses, right? All your expenses come down. Turns out that, look, did I have to change my lifestyle? Let me tell you something. There's a lot of fine folks out there that tell you to save. You need to save, you need to create a budget and save more. You do need a budget, but nobody in the history of the world ever saved their way to wealth. Just never happened. Budgeting is important to live within your means, but you've got to have a plan to grow your finances. You can only trade so much time for money. There's only so many hours of the week, and there's only one of you, right? When you start learning how to be an investor, right? Because now we're going to talk about a HELOC. Let's talk about it here, right? What was the value of my house before I got it? Anybody remember?
There you go, Magic.
Yeah,
Keep on going.
$220,000. Okay. So, for the last 5 years, I've been doing velocity banking. What do you think's happened to my credit score? Has it gone up or down? Yeah. Have I taken advantage of a lot of points and perks that come off of these credit cards? Flying to Hawaii for free and stuff like that? You betcha. Now, so credit cards going up. What about my DTI, my debt to income ratio, which all banks use to qualify for different? Went up. So, when I go to get my HELOC, right? HELOC, by the way, H-E-L-O-C. Very important that you go for the HELOC
Tell
and
him,
not the
Magic.
HELO. Are there banks out there that will want to push you into
Jeremiah,
HELO?
watch this.
Right? No. You want the HELOC. Why? Is a HELOC amortized? Or is it simple? Simple. Is it one directional loan or is it revolving? Ooh, so we really like the HELOC, right? So HELOCs are based off of a loan to value, your credit overall score, and your debt to income ratio. So we look at all of this.
No, I didn't,
and
Mike.
based off of this, you could get 90% LTV. 90% LTV, are you kidding me? What would you do with $198,000 HELOC? Right?
Invest it.
So it's a line of credit. Can I pull out all that cash? It's probably at an interest rate, by the way, at like 12% for 10 years. Any outstanding balance converts into a loan. So, $198,000. What could we do with that? Well, let's follow our rules. Any emergencies?
No.
Any debt?
The house?
Everything's paid off.
You're gonna buy assets.
Assets. Guys, how many houses can you buy with $198,000 here in Tucson? Let's just say here in Tucson.
Lots.
Lots? Who here says you can buy one?
Definitely one.
You can buy one? Yeah. Who here thinks you could buy 20? Yes, you're right. If you use a strategy that's taught in the other room, like they're learning through like real estate red flags of running your numbers, and creative acquisition strategies where you do a subject to, an option, you do a contract for deed, a land contract, an all-inclusive trust deed known as wraps, you do any type of seller financing and create a note, you can get into a property with little to no money down, right? All you're doing is taking over the existing debt, if there is any. because in some cases, like a land contract or a contract for deed, there is no debt. You're just creating a seller finance note and paying somebody over time for the property. So in doing that, you could take 198,000 depending on where people are at, and maybe you only need, maybe you need nothing to get into the property, but you're gonna pick up payments, right? So if I, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we'll just draw it over that, 10. Okay. So all of these came with debt. I mean, guys, we're talking about, let's say they're all the same average house. I've got 200,000, 200,000, 200, 200, 200, right? How much debt do I have?
Oh, a couple million.
Couple million is right, in debt, right?
Cool.
And so, but I leveraged, 198,000 to get it. Now, each of these houses, depending on what's being paid, there could be anywhere from $200, maybe $400 of cash flow after I pay the monthly expense, because we're gonna put a tenant in there, right? Someone's gonna pay us rent, and we're not running a charity here. So people are paying us rent on these properties, and so what's that doing to my cash flow if all of a sudden, based off of all 10 of those houses, right, let's say that adds in an extra $3,000 a month in cash flow. Now, how long did it take me to pay off $200,000 loan? Well, actually, it was 187 at the time.
I love
Now, how
it
long
when
does
they're
it
right.
take to pay that off if I had $2,000 of cash flow? And it took us 5 years. But now I'm going to have 3 times as much cash flow, right? How long is it going to take me?
15.
What?
15
15 what?
years,
No.
months?
To pay off one house?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be able to pay off one house in under 2 years, folks. Right at 2 years. Now, if I wanna do that, I could take time, and every couple of years I have another house, and each time I pay off a house in full, that's gonna also increase my cash flow. But I could also just significantly pay down a lot of them all at one time, right? Just putting extra principal towards all these. And let's say 5 years into this, right? So took us 5 years to get out of debt. Now we use our new HELOC and we get 10 houses here. And over the next 5 years, we end up significantly reducing the value, the debt on these houses, right? And so what do? We're just gonna sell all of these houses, and all the money made off the sale of the houses pays these houses off free and clear. Now, what if we're making now, because they're free and clear, $1,200 a month in rent times 5, what do we got? $6,000. Now, what was the average income over here? So if both of these people love their jobs, they keep working in it, now they've just added an extra $6,000 of cash flow into their life. They eliminated all of their debt, and if you add up the total time here, this was 10 years. This is a 10-year plan, right? If they didn't jump on board with Velocity Banking, they'd be another 10 years into this, right? And they'd still have all of their debt. They wouldn't be anywhere. But who here would love to be in a place where 10 years from now, you don't have to work, right? You're retired now because you have more money coming in than you were making. Can the same be said if you retired? Let's say one day you retire, right? And your 401k start paying you out. Is your 401k gonna be paying you the $5,000 a month? No, you only get 40% of what was being paid to you, less than half. You're gonna get $2,000 a month, right, for the next 20 years or whatever. You're like, ugh. That's what we're slaving and working so hard on these 401ks to one day pay us $2,000, guys. Let's just do the math. It's not gonna work. Is this sustainable? Is this doable?
Yes.
Yes. Right? $6,000 a month, right? Rental income, passive income coming into you. Folks,
Debt free.
So the reason why I asked for the HELOC, I thought HELOC
Beautiful.
you can only pay the mortgage of the HELOC. I didn't know that you can actually just use the line of credit
yeah,
and pay it off. So
right.
Okay.
Guys, who here has one of these? You do, if you do, please bring it up now.
Okay.
Prove it. Prove that you have one. So if you have an Apple, an iPhone, you go to the App Store. And if you have a Samsung, you go to what, the Play Store?
Play Store.
Play Store, right. So what you'll notice, if you type in the word, I'll write it up here for you. Renatus, and then type in Velocity Banking. By the time you've typed in Renatus and you get to the letter V, you should be seeing it. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. It's this little picture, white square with red V-like wings, right? Here's what this is. This is a velocity banking calculator. And read the fine print. It'll show you that all the information that you put into this calculator is shared with nobody. It doesn't go anywhere. It stays directly on your phone. But you can now put in your own budget information. You can put in your own lines and loans. And the velocity banking calculator can calculate for you when, if using velocity banking, you'll be out of debt, and how much interest you will save in the process. Now, is that good or good? Because that's free.
Do that
That's
now.
my free gift to you, folks. Is that cool?
So how easy is to get a new lock from the bank?
Well, it's not very easy at all. But in this situation, this would be 5 years from now after doing this, and we've paid off all of our debt, so we have no debt. So our DTI is great, right? And then at the same time, our credit score is phenomenal because we've been using these credit cards and lines of credit the right way, making all of our payments on time. So our credit score is going to be in the 800s when we go to apply for this. So if your credit score kind of stinks and your DTI is a little too high, then you might not qualify at all for a HELOC, but it's not uncommon to see HELOCs for people who don't have as strong financials. Could be as low as 60%, right? So that happens to folks. Now, for those of you who went and saw the Renatus presentation, how much does the full education cost? I mean, every single class, all 60 hours. What does that cost? Anybody know? Anybody remember?
100,
In basic was
19,000.
Right. So right, for the first 11 classes, it's 1,997. You're right. But what about if I want the whole enchilada? Right, it was $19,994. So 20,000. Yeah. Okay, so looking at this system, let's take a look at how velocity banking would work with that. Now, with our lines of credit, by the way, if you don't know how to do this, I don't recommend you go out and do it, but there are professionals like myself, like CJ Wallace, who we work with a number of financial lenders in the state. We could help find you, credit cards. New credit cards for you, right? For, let's say, 0% interest for 12 to 18 months. All right? And the amount of money that's let's say you're somebody with a credit score of 650 or better, and you're somebody with your utilization, we talked about utilization, and you're under 50%, right? So we're only talking to those folks, but that represents a large chunk. It is not uncommon for us to find $20,000 in, credit cards. All right, you guys following me so far? At 0% interest for 12 to 18 months. Let's look at velocity banking. If this was your budget, right, something similar to this, And we started off in the beginning, when we started, we are gonna knock out the $600 that we pay on the lines of credit, and we're gonna knock out all the money that we're paying on savings accounts and self-directed IRAs. That freed up $2,000 a month in cash flow. Was that right? Yes? Okay. So, guys, this is the last thing and you're gone. So, how long would it take me to pay off $20,000? Using Velocity Banking, remember where we
Is
started
what
that,
Renato
using
is.
this model, with
Jonathan.
$2,000 a month cash flow.
10 months.
10 months, you guys see that? 10 months. Now I have 0% interest for at least 12 to 18 months. So let me ask you, how much interest did you pay?
None.
None. Okay, so then that makes the cost
see that?
of the Renatus education effectively
They paid you to get an education.
you guys see that? It's effectively free. If you use other people's
Yes,
money
it sure is,
to
Jonathan.
get
Good question.
it, you use Velocity Banking at 0% interest. At what point did you pay for this? Right? You just ran this through your Velocity Banking model, and you still come out on the other end with either 2 or maybe 8 months left of 0% interest. Who's ready to money lend on the back end of a deal? And I mean, let's say you're at 0% interest and you charge somebody 15% interest. Did you just make, a little bit of dough there? Guys, I just want to show you this because Velocity Banking is something that you got to be educated on. You got to learn how to do this the right way. I've only covered a fraction of what's in this class. There's so much you need to know. There's so many steps that need to be followed. But if you can just grasp the power of this education, right? You've seen the Renatus education and what it does for folks on real estate. This is how we repair your financial situation. We eliminate your debt, we boost your credit score, we increase your cash flow, and we help you get into real estate. But we're not asking you to do something that actually, because so many people get caught up on, oh, it just costs too much money. Well, if it costs too much money, fine. What if we found you a $5,000 credit card, or let's say we find you a $2,000 credit card, and you have $500 a month of cash flow, right? So we find you a $2,000 credit card,
4 months.
easy by the way, and then at 0% interest for, let's say, 6 months. It's paid off in 4. What did it cost you to just get into the starter round of the education? Folks, when you start looking at and you start understanding numbers, they're not scary. Get educated. Know what you're getting into. And folks, I just got to encourage you. If you leave here going home thinking, well, that was interesting, that's a neat trick, then you've missed the whole point altogether. I'm like Morpheus, okay, from the movie The Matrix, and you're Neo. I'm handing you the option, blue pill or red pill. What's it gonna be? Like, if you take, the blue pill, right, let's go. Let's start living the life that you only dreamed of. But if you're like, you know what, I think I like this whole being over leveraged and having 0 cash flow, I think I'll just do that, right? Then take the red pill, go home, thanks for coming. But we want to work with you. We want you to become a part of this team. If you dream of something greater, if you were put here to do something more than what you're currently doing, then don't leave here tonight before you talk to the person who's invited you and tell me, I want in. I want to learn how to do it. Show me how I get in. Make the decision tonight to say, I'm in, you just got to show me how to do it, right? And if you're not in, make that decision tonight too. That way we don't waste any of your time and vice versa, and you go back to living happily ever after, and we help the folks who want to use this to take that business to the stars like I was talking about. I want to thank you so much for your time. Good night. God bless you. And go ahead, feel free to clap for me because I really like it. All right.
Hey, Jonathan, I'm going to show you that right now, okay? CreditWiz at investorpro.org. As a matter of fact, are you free right now for a phone call? CreditWiz at investorpro.org. Okay, that's the email. I do want to
Was that cool?
give you all a phone number as well. Okay, the lady was there, and she's a courtesy driver, and I had to. I'm gonna tell you a story.
Happy today. And
Oil change, right? I was getting my oil change.
we're getting started, right?
And we were getting the courtesy van, you know what I mean, back and forth to the dealership or whatnot.
That's what we do.
And this is what
We get people
happened.
out of debt.
Okay,
Let's
this is
talk to
what
this lady.
this is what
We got her
happened.
out of
I got
debt.
a text.
She told me something, and I asked her, "Hey, when are you gonna retire?" Right? And she said, "I think I'm just gonna
We'll
work
just work on the next
until
one.
I'm gone."
Thank you so very much.
Maggie,
And she was
you
smiling,
love it.
okay, when she said that. But did you think that was something to smile about? All right.
Perfect.
Listen, everybody's different.
This is exciting
Okay.
stuff, huh?
This woman, she seemed happy. All right. And hey, listen, that's her. All right. Perfect. She wants to be a courtesy
I feel
driver.
like
There's
I
nothing
said
wrong with
less
that.
tonight than
All
I
right.
did all
But
the
what
other
I
ones.
want to do, I want to be
I
like
didn't
Mike.
go into the whole,
This joker is talking about four
business credit
duplexes.
and,
all right. Multi-family. Okay. Over the 5 units. Commercial. Getting into the commercial properties. That's what we want to be like. All right. That's what. Right. You know, I might fix and flip. Right. We're helping a lot of people get $50,000 in business lines of credit, personal lines of credit. Folks, we just want you to cash flow now. Right. We want you to cash flow continually. So, Jeremiah, I remember you had a question. All right, and your question was, let me go ahead and find it here. You wanted to ask
let's keep you plugged
something
in,
because what I
keep
want to
coming,
do
keep
is I
working
want
with
to
Ray,
answer that question
Because this
because I remember looking at it,
because I remember you
Jeremiah,
came around for
and when
a
I
while
looked
and
at
then
it,
kind of
I was like, oh
went away
man,
for a
I
little
gotta,
bit.
I gotta answer that. So
Remember
you said,
when I
what
said how
services
this is
do
a
I
lifestyle?
offer? Well, remember,
You've gotta
I'm a realtor,
commit to
real estate
learn how to
investor,
do this
right?
and keep-
Also,
because we do it for a little while and then we
network
stop,
technician. All
everything
right.
slides back.
Listen, I like
So thank you.
real estate investing the
It was a
most
pleasure meeting you.
and business credit
You too.
consultant. So I help people out with business credit as well as real estate investing, as well as the velocity banking concept here. There's actually someone that I'd like to get on the phone with now. Do we have that phone number for them to dial, Joseph? If they want to get in touch and get more information. I have it in your email here, but I don't have the email up right now. You need that phone number.
Oh,
Thank you so
to
much.
contact me?
Oh, yeah. Why not? These people like talking to you, man.
Do they?
Hey, Joshua, look
Some
at that.
people, they
Hey, man,
call,
you're
they
doing-
want to talk to you, and they're like, I got stuck with Joseph. Man.
Listen, we want to give a shout out to Joshua Felder and Magic Matrix. They were the moderators on this YouTube. We just want to clap our hands for them right now. You know what I mean? Because they did a great job. George Brown, what's up to you, man? It's good to see you. He said, Jeremiah, just pay your bills on time and you'll get more line of credit. All right, lines of credit. Also, always pay more than the minimum balance if you can at a different amount every month because it makes your credit scores jump. Joshua Felder knows what he's talking about. Magic Matrix knows what he's talking about. He turned you on to some plastique. Okay, plastique, that's what we need to get in our minds. As a matter of fact, I have a plan with plastique and I'm not going to share it yet. Okay, because I know that this velocity banking concept and plastique, we can work together, all right? Because there are some bills that maybe can't be paid with the credit card. That's where plastique comes in. And that's where velocity banking comes in. And that's where the cash rewards come in. And Mike, this is where you can utilize those rewards to go to Hawaii next week. If you did that, right? And that's okay, because if you didn't do it this time, you could do it what? Next time. Nice. So Jeremiah, CreditWiz at investorpro.org. But you know what's better? Watch this. Let me give you the phone number. 888-524-9273. There's the number right there, folks. You want to go ahead and give that number a call. 888-524-9273. Jonathan, did you get that? Jeremiah, did you get that? He said, look at what George said. George said, I've been velocitizing my life here in Shreveport, Louisiana, and you've been awesome, brother. Thank you. Hey, George, anything that we can do, man. And good on you. Thank you for utilizing this velocity. Yes, you can call now. Jonathan? Absolutely, man. That's why we're here. You can call right now. 888-524-9273. All right, just leave a message and we'll make sure to call you back. All right? Have you ever heard the saying that you make time for what you think is important? As you can see, and there's been a lot of testimonies about the velocity banking method. As a matter of fact, George Brown is one of them. You can see it. And this method has just taken a hold. Yeah, absolutely. You want to schedule it? You sure can. Go ahead, Jeremiah. You can schedule it. 888-524-9273. As a matter of fact, if you call that number now and leave a message, we'll make sure to get back in touch with you either tonight or tomorrow. And just leave that message. Say, hey, I want you to call me at such and such a time, in Louisiana time, or New York time, or Florida time. Is Florida underwater? I hope not. Shout out to Caesar and Frankie over there in Florida. Those guys are with, one of them is going to be with the real estate investing education team of ours. And then another one he's actually on his way to building. Man, watch this. Let me go ahead and put it on me real fast. Building a real estate investing team from Miami all the way up to West Palm Beach. That's what he's doing with the real estate investing team that we are helping him with down there in Florida. So, folks, 888-524-9273. Jonathan, I can't wait. Jeremiah, you're on East Coast time. All right. Go ahead and call right now and leave that message, okay? We'll get back in touch with you. Now, email me afterwards, and I'll go ahead and share that over YouTube in just a little bit, right after this video, okay? All right, folks, listen. Let me let you all go. I know you guys, I love it when you attend, okay? This is for you. Good job, George Brown, Mike Charles, okay? Getting those apartments, keep on getting them. Roll that over. Get the lines of credit, get that home equity line of credit out, right? And then go buy some more. Cash flow some more. Make sure that that money is making money. And we will see you all next time. Good night and God bless.